Okay. How's it sound today? So, the goal of today's stream is to get the CDC components that I built the other day out of this piece, put them into a library of their own so I can share that. Hi, Delta. Your legs are sore. That's a good sign. That means you use them, right? Stretched them a bit, so that's fine. Get that exercise in. So, yeah, basically what I have working right this second is I got the CDC piece is working after much back and forth with AI over helping me do some of this stuff. There's still a few things I don't like, and we're going to figure them out by moving them to a library, so we can figure out those dependencies. Because right now I've got in what is or what should be isolated. I've got direct connection strings, etc. So the goal would be to move them out and uh, yeah, make that work. Um, but it does now, when it starts up, it monitors the CDC checkpoints table. It will capture the last process one. It will give me the list of changes that have happened, um, and it will output them and map them to the objects that I have defined here. Right. So the goal is this code is the only code that really I want to live in this project. I want these pieces to be an externalized library, mainly so I can just keep that as a reusable component. But now I've built out the use case, I don't want to go too far further forward without actually building this out as a library, because once it's a library, then again, I have reusability, etc. But these work fine. It maps these out and gives me the object, and now I can do whatever I need to do with these. I've yet to figure out what that really is, how I'm going to do this. I think what I will do is I will start to organize these as modules and create a monolith from these components. So I'll move the games API, the IGDB API, and the price charting pieces. I'll split price charting out as its own piece, and its own set of concerns, so that it's not in here. And then move these query components out to the query side of things and include that in the monolith still, but have essentially 4 modules to the monolith. That way I can deploy one API. And yes, I'll have different databases, which is fine. Each component will contribute its own piece to the overall monolith, and that way I can have one service running here, and I can have one service running here to do the integration. So as data appears in these individual systems, I use the integration service to create these combined um, uh, data structures that I can query on. So that is the goal. Um, and again, right now, a lot of this is experimentation. A lot of this is me building this to try and understand how would I tackle this? Do I like this way of doing things? Is it an option? Um, Obviously, Liquid Sky is still my. I'm not changing my direction for Liquid Sky. Um, but this gives me another perspective. Um, like so, maybe I shouldn't start off walking thing. I mean, the 10,000 steps is not necessarily like if you hurt yourself trying to walk 10,000 steps because you're trying to get there, you're going to set yourself back and that's going to hurt more. So build the ability to not be sore first, I'd say. That would be my advice. So yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to build out the pieces over here in a CDC extensions library. I will share this on my personal GitHub, and that way we can reuse it. I'm going to share this on my. This one is going to be shared on my personal GitHub, whereas this library, this game stuff, is shared on uh, uh, TBD Friends. I feel so good about 10k steps though. Can't tell if I ever want help. I just prefer complaining. Complaining's fine. Just don't hurt yourself. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So basically, the CDC pieces are wrapped up in here. So the CDC repository, this will give me changes. Well, here and here. So what happens is when I start up, I go and get my configuration of tables. So in here, I'm saying, here's the tables I want to monitor. And it's got the schema in front of it because what it does is CDC creates these objects and it knows it's talking about the CT version, right? The change table. This is a master list of the change tables. I could use that to check to see if I have things, but really I don't really care. And what I've done is I've said, okay, well, these are the ones I want to monitor. So when the change monitoring service starts up, it goes and builds these change monitors. And the change monitor is just an individual task that can run and go and get the state of the change. And I've got this on a 10-second delay. Yesterday I was like, hey, can maybe SQL tell me if um if a change has occurred so I don't have to constantly poll. So I went through the entire effort. There is apparently you can set up the broker and you can kind of react to an event, etc. And then I get halfway through that and get to some more code that says don't do that. That's not the preferred way. The preferred way is just to check with CDC. So I ended up on this version. But if I move this out to a library right now, this can all change later, right? It can change without impact of, as long as the behavior is the same, it can change without impact of my actual applications. So what this will do is it will open a connection. It will then get the current max LSN, and that's kind of like the sequence number. Sequence number is basically a GUID. Or yeah, it's a value here. And if it's different than what it was last time, it will actually invoke the changes detected, which ends up being in here, right? So everything gets the process changes async. So we pass in, hey, here's the table we're working, and here's our current max LSN. Let's go. So once it's added, once it's registered these change monitors, it'll start all the change monitors, all these, so it'll basically wait here. So that's what the change monitor service does. And then these processes, it goes and gets all the changes within that range from to the maximum. And then it will actually pull out anything that's not updated before. So CDC records not only this is a change before, this is a change after. So this is what it was, this is what it became. It's useful. You can always see the lineage of the data changes, but I don't really need that. So I'm just throwing out everything that's not an update before. I'm taking everything that's not an update before. I'm throwing them out. So deletes, inserts, etc. will come through, but update befores will be ignored. And then I created this publisher, and the publisher is essentially just a mediator of sorts. It basically says, hey, I've got this change. Let's go and see if we have a handler for that change. If we do, let's send that change to the handler. And that is handled by, we configure the monitors and we have this change handling configuration. So over here, what I've got is register the handlers, and these are the tables. These are the indicators that of what we're watching. I think that's enough to do. I think that's enough to say, hey, we have rather, I think that's it's acceptable to have that indicator there, the DBO underscore, etc. We know about it here. We know about it here. I could merge those two things together, by the way. I could kind of say monitors with handlers and kind of define an object there, but I'm not really sure I want to go that far right this second. So with that registered internally, what happens is add change monitoring. I have the change monitoring services change handling configuration. When I create it, I basically set a lookup and I use the provider there, so it will pull whatever these values are at the time that we use it. So these will have been pre-configured. It sets up the publisher in here as well. So um, that makes that clean. So the change handler, the base class looks like this. We have the map. That's not static. Let's just use Altstat plus Prometheus. That'd do the same thing. How so? Not sure how that would do the same thing. Well, I'm not using this for events like that. I'm using this to create another data store in parallel. So what I use for Kafka right now is what I'm using the CDC for here. So the idea is these handlers are not events, they're data, right? This is the current data that's coming. This is the change data. So the intent here is to say, okay, well, now insert this into this other schema, right? So I hook up this service, I watch the changes, and now as changes come through, they get handled and created into this new schema. Um, that wouldn't be the same if I built out Elasticsearch, etc. I don't care about these for search. I'm caring about these for building a new schema based off of these objects. The query. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a query view that combines IGDB games and price charting. So I'm going to remove the price charting concerns from the games API. So the games API is completely independent of price charting and the IGDB. So there's three different pieces. Not record in my data schema links to IGDB and price charting, record them in their schemas, and then put change data capture on so that I can actually watch their schema changes and um, then combine it into one query schema in, slightly delayed, but almost real time. And that way I can do things like I can build searches and stuff against, oh, I want all adventure games or I want all whatever games, right? And that schema is combined. In Liquid Sky, I do this with Kafka, right? So I publish integration events and consume those events from the different systems and recombine them into the view schema, what I call the view schema. This is just a different approach to that. Um, this would be useful if I wanted to hook up other things, like if I wanted to hook up Kafka so I could just stream stuff straight out the database. This would also be useful for that. I could just hook up Kafka to this, and then the rest of the system doesn't even care about Kafka. Everything's there because it's been committed to the database. That would be another way. The reason I don't do that for Liquid Sky is um, um, I want to control the data I publish and not build that into that integration layer. So I publish deliberate messages. Kibana can be interesting to hook up to the data just to figure out what's interesting in it, and then build up dashboards in your app. But I don't need Kibana at this point. It's not really something that I have a use for. The dashboards I'm building in my app are, um, you know, part of that data anyway. Yeah. If you got metrics and stuff, then absolutely. So I'll go through all those books I got and build out an article on event-driven architecture. Okay, that's cool. Finding what is an event, what does event-driven architecture look like? Be interesting to see what you take from that. For certain. Let's move some of these pieces over. So let's start with contracts. Yeah, those go over. Refactor this, adjust namespaces. Yeah. CDC change record. I'll have to make a code base that's event driven also, maybe a bank account or something similar. Um, yeah, finding something that log sequence number. Okay, that's what LSN stands for. Hey, a comment that was useful. Yeah, finding a useful example would I'd be interested to see your journey there. Because I feel that kind of figuring out the events is actually kind of a difficult thing to do. Um, like Liquid Sky is really not it's a mix of different eventing styles in there. Um, so I'd be very interested to see what you take from what you read for certain. Okay, so now we need the CDC repository. We don't need a CDC folder in this one because it is all about CDC. Um, so CDC repository, CDC repository, refactor this, namespace. Yeah, this is what I want to start to disconnect. I don't want to pass a connection string into my repository here. That's one of the things I don't want to do. Ambiguous candidates. Did I redefine it? Oh yeah, copied everything over. That's fine. That's fine. Log sequence number. Worry about that later. Worry about that later. That's fine. What I've found with Kafka is, through reading through it for years, is people don't like actually defining what they consider an event. Because again, Kafka was originally just like a log streaming. So the event was here's the information that you need to care about, right? Here's what happened. So that was the event. Um, but we associate events with like record created, record updated, transaction completed, um, you know, customer added, all those sorts of things, the things that change in the system. So we put events around there. Whereas with Kafka, I use the integrations as I call them integration events, but they're really just, you know, this information needs to be published, right? This has changed, therefore there's an integration required. So that's the only, it's a thin uh, event in that respect. It's not like carrying with it a lot of context. You have to infer the context. Whereas you use Service Bus for publishing something happened in the system. You might want to do something to react to this. My challenge with Liquid Sky there is when I do that sort of stuff, how do I handle things happened when that thing that is receiving that event may not already have the data it needs. So that's going to be an ongoing challenge. Or maybe I publish the data it needs um, with that event. I'm not sure yet. Um, but I mean, Liquid Sky is definitely event driven. Yeah, no worries. So that's CDC repository moved. It's this part that I don't like the idea of. So let's have a look. Projects. Projects. No, no. I'm not going to behave, Claude. Claude.ai. Just got done trying to keep on up on my messages in the morning, kind of thing. At least I tend to rely on others for the majority of my learning rather than going out and freshly trying to learn a thing. Although the event-driven arc is an example of latter. think I think there's a good balance to be had. I think that having meaningful discussions with people who also care about what they're doing is a useful way of learning. Um, Going off and gaining your own understanding can give you some insights. Um, I think there's a good balance to be had. Why is Claude not working? Uh, okay. Um, so you know when you're talking to others, you're also relying you're able to have a conversation, whereas a book um, is often one person or a couple of people's opinions on how to do something or why they do, or what you should do um, based on their experience. Whereas if you can have a conversation, you can push back and say, "Well, no, I don't think that." And I think a good, you know, a good back and forth is definitely worth it, especially when you're trying to establish an understanding of a technology. I don't think a book necessarily gives you a book might give you the terminology and the idea of the technology of the practice, the pattern, the whatever, but until you use it, and your first version of when you learn something from a book, I think your first version is going to look exactly like the person who wrote the book's code. It's going to be a very pure implementation of that thing, and having the ability to talk to people who have actually done some of the stuff is definitely useful. So you can validate, the difficulties they had, because you don't know whether when you're reading through something and you're trying to implement code based off what you understood, you don't know whether the troubles you're having are caused by you or it's a common pitfall that they just glossed over in the book because they don't want to get stuck on, oh, well, you're going to find a problem here. This isn't going to be too easy to do, or this is going to make this a problem. So experience helps. Um, I, changes from it. Mm. Uh, Talking moving our code from closures to classes. Many share with that is something like 90% of the code for quite some time will be mostly closures just due to the size of the code base. Not visualizing that in my head properly. What do you mean by? Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what that transition looks like. Like, why? Because it feels like a very deliberate design. Injected fields, method params. Uh, More intuitive. Not if they're poorly named and structured because they meet what it can be replaced with just a closure, right? Okay, so SQL Server, Postgre, and MongoDB all can do CDC. However, Postgre and MongoDB implement it very differently. So this is very much SQL. This is very much SQL Server. CDC dot. Let's do that. What I was worried about is SQL connection here a sticking point or is it a necessity? And realistically, it is a necessity. Application host builder extensions. So we go and add Microsoft extensions hosting abstract. I think abstractions contains what I need. It should do. It should contain the interface. Public static Bullet static T builder. Add change. So this is going to look like this. Okay, that's good. Nope, that's not good. Oh, we're back to this again, aren't we? Monitoring options. Services. Change. Monitoring service. And then we need a change handling configuration. Infrastructure publishing. Add all them. Refactor this, adjust namespaces. So what we'll do is we'll take this, build it, rip all the code out of the existing library and leave just behind the handler pieces and see if it works. Okay, so we need that's not that's fine because that's not a background service yet. So we can copy this. So if you are new to the stream, if you are interested in what I'm doing and you have any thoughts, questions, opinions, you're more than welcome to join in. Checkpoint. See, I don't like calling this a service. Apex, good morning. Hope you are well. I'm good. I'm good. How are you? So we need to do scripts as well. So CDC scripts. Let's take these. Grab water as well. Water will help with the with some of that soreness. Drink water. That's advice from someone who's suffered a great deal of pain from. Okay, edit, open in Explorer. Scripts. So what I got to figure out. Open in Explorer. CDC. Okay. Has Streamlabs woken up yet? No. Streamlabs bot has pretty much gone away. I keep forgetting to do. Keep forgetting to actually post in my own Discord that I actually am streaming. Just in case it makes any difference. Log in. Log in with Twitch. Wonder if I disconnect and reconnect. Cloudbot. Twitch inactive. I know the YouTube one doesn't work. The YouTube one never works, and I've added it multiple times as a mod. So that's... There we go. There's some useful things in there. Okay. So we got that, we got that, we got that. Add existing folder. Scripts, select folder. So this is what enables the CDC stuff. Hopefully I don't have any extra pieces here. Because what I'll end up doing is I'll have to figure out refining this to basically build this off of a yeah. This is important. That's going to be a problem. This doesn't use Entity Framework, so that's going to be an issue. Which piece do I need here? There's a piece I'm missing. Microsoft extensions dot dependency. So which one's this one? Options service collection extensions. That's the problem. It's not options service collection extensions. It is options configuration. Yeah, options configuration, not options. There you go. It's that version. That might be one of the most annoying configurations Microsoft has so far. That's just irritating. So I have some extensions to worry about. CDC helper extensions. We'll just take this outright. I think it's all good right this second. CDC helper extensions. I don't think. Can I make that? Can I make that internal? I might be able to get away with making that internal. Yeah. Change monitor, change monitor, change monitor. Again, I've got these SQL connections all lying around. That's one of the things we need to change. But I need this to build before. Change monitor, add. Before we do anything else. I just want to get down to the SQL connection being the only error there is. Yeah, that works. Checkpoint service. Checkpoint service. Okay, so checkpoint service. It's more like a repository. So what if we create that as a repository? And so CC, let's do checkpoint repository. Right, let's see how this feels. SQL connection. Problem with that style is if I inject a SQL connection, that checkpoint repository will be created the moment I start the service, which means its connection will always be held open. And I don't want that. I want to be able to. So again, these are very short-lived queries, right? Or commands. So yeah. We'll create a checkpoint options object and public string connection string name. I don't like what I'm about to do, but let's see. Let's see how that goes. And then we're going to create public class checkpoint. Public. Well, we only care about the last processed and the table name. So public string, public required. Let's just make it a record. Checkpoint is a string table name and a byte array of last processed LSN. Right. And then we have a save, which becomes that becomes a checkpoint. And if checkpoint dot last processed, right, then we create a new SQL connection with our configuration get connection string, and that's going to be options dot current value dot connection string name. I think that's a good middle ground, but we'll find out. Checkpoint dot table name, checkpoint dot last process $sn. Whoa, who said add that in there? I don't know why that couldn't be an argument. I don't know why this is a mixed string built. That could be an argument just as much as Actually, let's do that. Table name. Does that become last processed LSN? And that become table name. Checkpoint. This all matches, so it becomes part of the query. And then we have, so that's save. And let's do load checkpoint. And that returns checkpoint. And then we take this. It's fine. And then return await. Table name. Table name. Last processed LSN. And that's a checkpoint. That's a note. Yep, that's fine. Again, I'm just making this up as I go along, right? I'm trying to see if the design fits. Extract interface. Save and get. Now we can do in here, we can inject a iCheckpoint repository. Checkpoints. And now down here, this is going to error. New checkpoint. Table name there. I mean, I know it's wrapping a thing around it, but it's fine. Last log sequence number as readable string. If it's not null, return point dot no, that's if it's not equal to null. So if the checkpoint is an object that has last process that's not null, then return the last processed. Otherwise, go and get the minimum LSN from the table and return that and coalesce it with an empty byte array. That would give us all zeros, which would mean that that would be the lowest and that we get everything after that anyway. So that's why that works. iCheckpoint repository gets us checkpoints. That feels a little better. Those are complaining about SQL. The change monitor is complaining about SQL. I think we're going to end up doing the same thing here. Actually, this one is a little different because this is fed by the configuration of the service, right? So, yeah. Hey, Odger, how you doing? Right now, I am porting over some code that I've been working on to do change data capture into its own library, so I can put that up and share that code and keep it separate from the project I'm working in. I've been building on stream for a couple of weeks now a library to track my games collection. Right now, everything's not working, so I can't even show that. And what I'm doing is I'm moving towards moving it to a more modular monolith where I can kind of combine these pieces into a single service, which allows me to deploy this without deploying many moving parts. And part of that is I'm building a CDC service, change data capture a service around the SQL pieces to create a new schema for consolidating the game data together. So yeah. As always, if you have any thoughts, questions, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to join in. I'm streaming to share what I'm doing. I'm not pretending that I know everything. I'm open to discussion. So CDC repository takes a connection string. Um, uh, it's one of those days where software development is um, driving me crazy a little bit in general. Does it pull your library from Steam? No. So I have a physical collection of games that I track. I have um, many uh, physical video games. I don't consider my Steam library to be part of my game collection because it's all digital stuff. Um, Integration with Steam wouldn't be a bad idea though for the future. Um, yeah. Uh, this particular thing is as well uh, game. The code for this application is open sourced. Um, I've built out this over the last couple of weeks. Um, yeah, that's not a terrible idea being able to if you could hook into Steam, that would be awesome. Yes. Yeah. Um, I grew up playing video games and I've loved them for a long time, and earning the money to be able to build a collection of games that I want to go and play is it affords me that opportunity. So I've collected for I think it's currently 37 consoles, all the way back to the Atari 2600. Um, I don't have things like ColecoVision or anything like that, but yeah, and no super quirky ones like the Vectrex. But yeah, okay, let's SQL connection. So this is missing because I do not have um, Microsoft. Wow, data.sql client .NET 9. Yeah, that's still supported. So what I'll be doing over the next couple of streams is building this integration service out so that all this CDC stuff goes away from this particular service. All that lands in this integration service is the handlers for my specific data. And the idea is that when I change this information, I don't want to make this application piece responsible for updating the other schema, but then I want the query to be possible. I am going to break that rule a little bit. When I do IGDB stuff, I'm going to have to insert it into this SQL schema. Because I'm not going to go the full hog of um, 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 doing CDC for Mongo. that's just too much. But when I record the information for the game, I'm going to have to insert it into this SQL schema for the query. Similar to price charting, the price charting components I just move out as their own services, so that when I associate a game, it will be through like the linking of this stuff, the price charting stuff will move to its own API pieces, then combine them into a monolith. So these are all just modules to that monolith, and then the query as well will just be a module. So I'll deploy it as one application, but multiple pieces. And this will give me the ability to create that extra schema to create the view, so I can pull together, oh, well, this game has these attributes and these things in one database, but then still isolate my data from the third-party integration data, which gives me more flexibility to add integrations. And if something breaks, it's the view that changes, and I can just rebuild it all anyway. If you're into people, you're passion for anything. I love software development. No, the goal will be to deploy it to Azure, so that I can use this outside of the house. So that's why I'm going for the modular monolith. I started building out more services, and I thought, you know what, I do not want to deploy this as many services and databases, etc. So, yeah. Recently, I've taken a pause on a larger project on stream. I do have another passion for trying to help developers be productive. So I've been building a project management tool for the past year and a half on the stream primarily. That is a little bigger and a lot more distributed. Um, I'll share the diagram of that quickly. Just so Liquid Sky, Project Liquid Sky, not it's not its product name, it's its code name, is a large, no, this is not open source, a larger application using a lot of different technologies. I use Kafka as the backbone for that piece. I've got lots of moving parts in here. So um, this application is a much more uh, involved piece of development. Um, Recently been working on triggering changes. So I spent a while last month working on, well, July probably now, uh, building sagas out so I can coordinate distributed events. But I will get back to streaming that eventually. I'm just trying to get this Game Trove stuff done now that I've got enough stuff in here. And this is also working as an experiment piece. It's working as a um, um, uh, kind of a playground for some of the technology stuff. Yeah. As I said, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on anything I'm doing, you're more than welcome to join in. If you feel I'm doing something wrong or something that you want to learn more about, you are more than welcome to ask. I do not stream to. I do not stream with the sole intent of um, making progress on my projects. I do play with this offline as well. Publish a lookup. So that's that. That's fine. So that's in theory enough. So let's go back over here. So that will add the monitoring options. It'll expect that in the system. It will add the change monitoring service. We need to add the checkpoint options. We need to configure checkpoint options. Um, Monitoring options. Actually, if we do this, move that under monitoring options. Public, required, checkpoint, options, checkpoints. And then we do go back to checkpoint repository and we inject that moves to contracts. And that becomes monitoring options, current value dot checkpoints dot connection string. The dots are unavoidable there. I'm going to go with that one. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. Again, that gives me the flexibility, but we'll see. We'll play with that. Okay, now I need to visit this one so I don't end up with hard-coded strings everywhere. We've got eye configuration, we've got monitoring options, so we do have them, so we can do the same thing. So basically it's the same as this, almost. Tables. Checkpoints could go into a different data store, is the point. Or do I assume they're all in the same database and just different schemas? Then I can just move that up. Then we don't need checkpoint options explicitly. And then that becomes... Come on. I'm not sure about that one, but we'll find out. So this becomes get connection string options dot value dot connection string name. There's no point in having, actually, even that one, there's no point in having it as a monitorable thing because it's not going to, this one potentially changes because we could get one every single time, but we don't. We get it when we start up and that's it. It's this lives for the lifetime of this service. So having it as a monitored thing, if I was constantly asking for it, that'd be a different thing, but I'm not. Okay, so we need to do that everywhere else. He says everywhere else, that might actually be the only place. Because everything else uses repository. So checkpoint repository, CDC repository. Now we get back over here. CDC repository. Consistent though. Eye configuration, eye monitoring, eye options, options. I'm kind of hoping that this kind of, yeah, we'll see once we get to use it. And by the way, Hanak Fu, if you're still here, I apologize. I did not see the follow. Thank you very much for the follow. Much appreciated. Okay. So that removes that need, that removes that. We're going to hope that that was just a catch up. Mm. Yeah. So that gives us that. I think we've got everything in there. So the goal of this piece would be to replace all this, and then these handlers. Basically, I would have another connection string in here that would say, okay, well this database is now going to receive this information, so I can create those pieces without having all this CDC stuff in place, and now I've got a reusable library. But now we get to how do we get this configured? So enable all CDC tables is simple enough, but hmm, I think this would. I don't see anything that limits the schema here. So it excludes system tables and any tables that have CDC enabled, but it pulls all the schemas. So it loops through and execs SP CDC enable table on that schema. And then outputs that it's enabled it. So right now, if you had multiple schemas, if you were building off multiple schemas, that'd hmm. CT is change tables. Okay. So if it exists in the change tables in the CDC names, so this creates a CDC schema. And then this is the table I add. I think it's time to use some AI here. Agent. Claude Sonnet. Yeah. The library. Let's start with the scripts. It should run order script will enable CDC and let's want to tweak script, a second script if necessary, and allows us to record progress. I haven't figured out yet if CDC actually. Oh, maybe. Thank you very much for the raid. Welcome in all. How you doing? Hey, Darren. How you doing? It is me, maybe. Now I want to watch hello. Good. I made progress on my CDC stuff yesterday. So the game library stuff. Yeah. Need to get food and get ready for interview. Cool. Well, enjoy your food, and I don't think you need luck with the interview. I think you got it. So, but have fun. Still here. Well, then I'll say that later again. How's that? Second script is necessary and allows us to record. I'm just getting Claude to or the agent to kind of build a README file. Second script is necessary and allows us to record progress in publishing changes, so after restart, we don't start again. Now you come back. um, let's start with that. When let's see what it does. We are missing a few pieces so far. We'll find out. So, did you make progress today in between conversations? Did you actually get some of the barely fit stuff done? .NET library for monitoring SQL Server, change data capture changes and publish them to configured handlers. Yep, SQL Server with CDC enabled. Appropriate database permissions. A library requires CDC to your database and tables. Run the following scripts in order to enable. This script enables CDC on all user tables across all schemas in the database. You may want to modify. Exclude certain tables. Use different role names for CDC access. Yep, the script will enable CDC at the database level. Automatically enable CDC on all user tables that don't already have it. Skip system tables and tables that already have CDC enabled. Print success failure message for each table. Create checkpoint table. It's essential for the library to function properly. It allows to avoid reprocessing changes that have already been published. Add the library to your project. .NET package add. I love this. It's already got the. It's already determined that I have deployed this as a package. Then create your builder, add the change monitoring, configure your change handlers here, see how change handling section works below. Configuration section, add the following to your app settings, connection string name, default connection, tables, there you go. Claude just replaced my job 20 seconds into the stream. Great. Library allows you to configure. I'm using this as a time saver, but obviously there's way more to it than this. Hi Siash, how you doing? I am good. I am feeling positive on this today, even though my stream title. Uh, what I've realized lately, I've had a lot of moments of I've got lots of opportunities to solve different problems, and I'm hopping around a lot of different things. And I've got to get back into settling on my project. It's why the game tracking library is the focus for right now and not my main project. Because I can hop around on this. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Welcome in. So the game library gives me the ability to just tinker with stuff, play with different technologies, play with different ideas and techniques. Like I said, towards the end of the week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all this into basically make a modular monolith. So deploy one application and not three or four. And that way all the query components are all handled. What I'm doing this for right now is to kind of combine the data from one database or multiple databases into a single database that then I can use that for query. So I can improve the application performance. So right now the application isn't behaving badly, but it is things like, hey, I want all adventure games, or I want all games with, for this console, etc. that's not really possible in the current, well, for the console it is, but all games are from a certain publisher, with this, like all adventure games for a certain publisher are all, um, all, um, there's other tags I can attach. Um, all games of a certain age rating or whatever. I can't analyze that data in that way because it's not condensed into a format I can use. So the aim is by using these tools to produce that schema, in real time or near real time, um, uh, without actually changing the core code to do those things like I do in Liquid Sky. Um, if you are new to the stream, I am a .NET developer of many years. I have been building projects on stream for about 6 or 7 years now. I've done a variety. This particular project, the game library project I'm working on, and this CDC library that I'm about to produce, are open source. So it's a lot of .NET code. If you are into .NET specifically, there's a lot of things going on. Will this actually run? Can I show this on stream right this second? Is the question. Will the app run? But if you have any thoughts, questions, opinions on what I'm doing, positive or negative, doesn't matter. You're more than welcome to join in. I am. Oh, no server. How did that expire? How did that expire? Does that expire on a schedule now? Ah, things you learn. Let's see if this works today. My apologies for the bright white screen. C sharp, language of the gods. See if this may build. I'm able to show this off. There we go. Okay, so if we log out, so Game Trove, log in with my Google account. If you were to use this, oh no, did I break everything? That's not good. You do have a dependency on using Auth0, but that will make easier with time. Why no work? Just like, nah, I'm good. What? I'm not going to worry about that right a second. I'm going to assume that I've broken something in doing this. The database is there. There's the database. But that's just like, no, I'm good. I'm good. It's fine. Failed to load. I mean, everything's just failing. That's stunning. I like how this one as well. That's the image there. I'm getting 429 on that one. That's because this is probably being requested like 3 times or something by the React app. Why is that just outright? That's bugging me now. Debug. It's not even making the request to the gateway. Oh, did this just change all the ports? This just changed all the blinking ports. Env example, env local. Gonna jump off now. Got a meeting soon. Have on. Okay, thank you very much for coming hanging out for a bit. Thank you very much for the follow. Have a great meeting. These Twitch eyes are wild. Why have I just seen a prison guard bust it down after sipping tank? I don't see ads on Twitch. I don't know. I don't know why. Whenever I try to show my projects to people, it fails at that point. And I think I haven't edited anything. That's just a normal curse. That's fine. Don't stress that. Consider it practice. That's all. Editing a file that is ignored. That's fine. That should be ignored. Morning, Mojo. Now I gotta make sure I figure out which one I'm actually editing. .env. Oh, that change. Okay, the M file changes that. Okay. I think this is happening because the port has changed on the server. It's a party. Yeah. Vite server restarted. Does that mean that that's not working? What does that mean? So, yeah. I think this restarted and the API gateway is no longer on the port it was on after I changed the HTTPS. And oh, what the heck? Hey Frank, how you doing? Let's go and validate that because that looks stinky. API gateway. No, 7054. It is 100% on 7054. 7054. Is that just not agreeing? It doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't start up and redirect or bind to something different. So let's just restart everything and see. Would be good to figure this out. CERN 7054 structured API gateway. Right, so what I'm looking for. See, again, now listing on 3872. I haven't paid attention to that before. But is that the problem? Or is that kind of a different thing? Because this says URL 7054. Why would this start up with different profiles? What would you do in your bakery? I would make lots of bread. I like bread. I would bake sourdough loaves. I would bake, although I do like some cakes. I'd love to make eclairs and croissants. Yeah, but I think Aspire's pulling this one off. But again, that shouldn't matter. But 7054 is not responding either with it. So, oh, there we go. Man. Okay. What was the other one it started up? I think Aspire reports whatever's in that configuration and not what the actual service starts up on. But the actual service is ignoring me. So I think that it's really on structured API. I think it's on 3872 right now. So let's just test that one. 3872. No, he says. There was data there a second ago. This is wild. Why is that conflicted? Be good to show it. Like I think Aspire is reporting this when it starts the project, but it doesn't. But the annoying thing is, this should be respecting that configuration, because that's what sets them up. So why is I suppose the question there is over here. Let's go to ChatGPT. I gotta move my computers around. I'm getting wireless interference. Um, um, why does my API gateway not respect the startup settings and start on different? Launch configuration. Let's see. Kestrel configuration. I've got no Kestrel configuration. Got none of that, none of that, none of that, none of that. Is this through a gateway? Oof, I think I know the answer, but I'm getting coffee right now. Well, that's unacceptable. I would bake croissants and sourdough loaves and eclairs. Also bake some gingerbread people as well. I like gingerbread. And what else would I bake? I want to bake lemon tarts. These are all things I'm not allowed to eat anymore, by the way, or not supposed to eat anymore. Uh, so I'm punishing myself here more than I am anybody else. These are things I'm meant to avoid. I'm on my knees. Mr. Stronghold, good morning. Up, configure in app settings. I'm missing something really annoyingly weird here. So we had it showing the data. At some point, it managed to get through the gateway. What did I change? So this is saying it's loading on 3872. This is showing 70545248, but that I understand is going to be pulled from the configuration. So why would the .NET service start up and completely, and it is started on 3872. It's not started on. Why would it ignore, unless the profile's wrong, that this is running? Um, I'm going to create a manifest. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. What? Aspire manages the comms on the port. What does that mean? No, there's no health endpoints right now. In this one, in this application right now, there's no need for health endpoints, and ultimately, these two go away. So there's only one API because I'm going to modularize this down, and the API gateway at that point is actually irrelevant. So ultimately, my Aspire app will be one project at this the way I'm going. Although no, there'll be infrastructure services. But I'm condensing these down. I just wanted to load the app to show it. Morning, Napalm. How you doing? Um, I wish I knew how to explain it, but the service talk to each other through the ports defining Aspire's dashboard. But that doesn't explain why they're not, why this is starting up and completely ignoring its launch profile. I'm not sure how that implant, as far as I understood, this was fed through, so this starts on this port. This is if it's ignoring all of this. Well, I can ignore it some more because I'm taking it away from it. Can't behave. Get out. If I start the gateway independently. Oh, hold on. I probably know the answer to this. Well, it was. Interesting. Okay. Hold on. API gateway, environment variables, .NET runtime. That's not using. That's not using launch settings. That's why. .NET project. API gateway. Yeah. Let's see what that does. In theory, I don't need the launch settings. So Aspire uses the gateway. Yeah, that launches on 7054. Okay. So that's actually using the launch settings now. Okay, that's fine. So Aspire is the actual proxy of 7054, which then passes it to my gateway. Is that what we're saying? So I'm proxying requests. That's not the in the DCP. Not sure I know what the acronym is. The underbelly of this is not something that I'm very familiar with, so let's see what happens now. They've deleted the projects, so you can't start the projects independently. That's good. Let's see what this starts up as. Okay, so that started API gateway 665. So it doesn't matter what I call that. So is the problem then that the SSL cert changed? So that should be fine. But this is no longer loading because it's just disappearing off into the ether. It never finishes. Oh, what's 2162? Where are you pulling 2162 from? Come on. Oh, now you're gonna. Now you're pulling from that one? It didn't restart before. Lesson learned. I must learn about Aspire networking. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so the problem there was twofold. I've gone and changed things in the back end that I didn't need to actually change because the front end pieces that were actually, this didn't respect it the first time. I think it respected it at some point because it was there. So the env.local got ignored the first time I reloaded it. Otherwise, that would have been done sooner. Anyway, so Game Trove. Let's go in here, go to price charting, trigger an update. Let's see if this works today. That should go off in the background and pull an update file and then update the pricing. Ooh, it remembers it between restarts. Awesome. So the library of games, I can go into each one. Now, again, what I'm trying to do with the CDC stuff is I'm going to try and get this information. Really? That took its sweet time, didn't it? I'm assuming that's a startup cost. So things like racing simulator, sports strategy, this information is not available to me to query on, right? So what I'm going to do is use CDC to create a combined schema that will allow me to add all this information into one place. And then I can actually say, okay, I want all racing games. I want all racing simulator games or strategy games, etc. And that just gives me more flexibility over the data. Because right now, all this stuff, all the visuals and stuff are pulled from IGDB. I'm caching that IGDB data, but it's not in the same place as the data for my games. And price charting, similarly, the price charting data is all stored in my schema, but I don't want it in my schema as its primary source. I want that in there as a kind of view concern. So if I disable price charting, my data is unaffected. Right now, they're kind of intertwined. The benefit of that is if price charting goes away, my application, my data is still my data. I just need to build a new pricing layer on top of it to get that data in there. That's the goal. But yeah, so this should change. Actually, I think that did change. So if I look at the database right this second, and I go to price charting snapshot, order by, no, order by last updated descending. Okay, so yeah, I've just updated a bunch of games. So that downloaded a file in the background and went and updated all the pricing. So now these changed between and this is the delta, the difference in change of price from the last time it was checked. So like Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. It's going to get more confusing. Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. 3 copies of it apparently. The most valuable one I have is $47 worth. 2 of them apparently. The greatest hits version, the re-releases that do. But you can see the pricing has jumped significantly version on version. This is funny, just all over the place in terms of yeah. Greatest game of all time alongside Half-Life 1, 2. So yeah, so the idea being that if you download this application, this tab won't show if you don't have a price charting API key. right? And right now they're $50 a month, by the way. So, but you can still use the application without having that data. Is a goal. So, oh, that moved again. Is that consistent or is that just me? I think it was updating still in the background. Where in the world is? Oh, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Pretty much on every platform ever. Wow, the old school one. I remember getting that. That was awesome. 2 copies of that, $37 each. Purchased one for $27, so it's appreciating. But that's recently jumped quite significantly. But it was going for 146 new a while ago. It dipped down to 75, and now it's just jumped back up to $300. So this is useful for me to see trends in the games. This is again each snapshot. This isn't historical. This is just when it was last updated from. So ultimately, I want to show the timings. But right now, what I'm finding is I'm building too many queries that are costing me too much time to try and gather this data. So what I want to do is use the CDC stuff to export this data and produce a data format that has all this already pre-prepared. So as other things change, they can update the right data on the game. Yeah, so these are the most recent games I added. Actually, oh, here we go. So if I want to add a new game, I can do Rockman 4 for the Famicom. Right, that's that's funny. It is called Rockman in Japan, but it maps to Mega Man 4. That's interesting that it becomes the same game. Um, yeah, the family computer, the Famicom. So I can save that. That now links that, and there we go. There's that. It's cheaper to buy the Japanese version than it is to buy the US version. Um, no price charting. Um, I don't have a copy. Let's add a copy. Purchase cost. I think this was $13.98. I think it was. No UPC, and it's loose. Add copy. So now I have the copy. I can search the pricing. Mega Man 4 for the NES. Come on. Family computer version has got to be in here. It's got to be in here. There's no way. It's not the NES version. It's incorrect to say it's the NES version. NES version. Mega Man. So it's mapping it as Mega Man. Oh, it changed the name. It is Rockman. That's interesting. Did you see that Apple announced a cross-body strap for the iPhone? No. I don't pay attention to what Apple do. I'm barely in the Apple ecosystem. Oh my goodness me. It's like everything that contains the word man or rock has just been included. Rock man. That's the only thing in there. Mega Man. Famicom? Where are you? Where's the Famicom word? Please tell me you not found it in the background. You found it in the background, haven't you? It's in the background. Okay, so linking that to price chart is going to be difficult, which means that's not going to show. That's fine. I can add another game. Super Mario. Actually, let's not add Super Mario. Alien versus Predator. The Jaguar. There you go. Save the game. Awesome game, by the way, if you've ever played it. pretty much one of the best games on the. I think this was 50. Loose. I'm not buying a box copy of this game. Alien versus Predator. Alien versus Predator. Atari Jaguar. There you go. Worth 55. Paid 50. Okay. And that won't show me anything there because I don't have any history yet. Right. Nothing's been loaded for it. But yeah, that's the app running. So what I need to do now is build this out. I need to build the NuGet packages um, for this. Then pull that library through and then decide how I'm going to do the next part. So phase one of this is going to be to define what I'm thinking is I'm going to use MongoDB to get all the data. So the query side of everything will become MongoDB instead of SQL Server, which means I can get rid of all the related tables, all the joins, etc., and just build out objects that represent what I need. The problem with that is obviously I have IGDB and price charting. What I'll probably end up doing is creating a separate schema for the price charting components. Have that all the pieces for price charting split out into there. So there's things like the service for processing the file, etc. All of that will get moved out into its own schema, and then put CDC against that as well. And have that push out to the MongoDB. So when I map a game, this mapping now, this game copy pricing will be nothing to do with my application. I'll just add a game copy to my system. When I link it to price charting, I will link it in the price charting API, not the game copy, the games API. And now when the price charting snapshot updates, it will allow me to link it back to its game and update its copies information. So I suppose I'm going to practice with how much data I want to put in a MongoDB object. The only challenge is the IGDB piece. Like I'm already putting that, I'm calling that the IGDB cache, but maybe the IGDB piece, I just need to go and say, hey, have you got this game? No? Okay, well, here's the data for it. And capture it that way. So yeah. But the goal is to get one API, a modular monolith of the components, a three APIs for creating data, one API for querying data, all merged into one application, so I can deploy it as one app, one SQL DB, and one MongoDB. To try and cut down the complexity, he says, of this as a whole. Jaguar. When I did the IGB thing before, I think I override the name because I definitely typed Rockman originally, and then when I linked the IGDB because it selected Mega Man, it became I think 50 loose. Search pricing. Wolfenstein 3D. Yeah, 55. So there you go. I've got Wolfenstein on the 3DO as well. So some of those games I collect because they are. I'd like to compare them and look at how they differ, what sort of which is the better version for myself, and kind of add them to my reviews. And that's why I put the review system in here, so I can write reviews on these games. Ape Escape's been pretty much a constant for the last 9 months. questions. I told me how could them. What? Not a popular one by the looks of it. Oh, Famicom. Okay, it's a Famicom game. Is that like big news in Apple, or the fact that you're going to pay $65 for a strap that allows you to put your phone? Um, Apex, thank you very much for coming hanging out. Yeah, I'm happy for maybe's raid. Um, yeah, going forward. Apex, yeah. Apex streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays. He streams his game development, working in Godot.net, and making some awesome progress. Highly recommend it. I didn't give a shout out for maybe before, but we will do that before we end the stream. I think most people in here will know maybe. Be streaming tomorrow. Nice. You too. Thank you very much. Have a great day, Apex. So, okay. Um, so my next steps here are basically try and figure out, make this a NuGet package that I can pull in. Now it's configurable, right? There's no hard coding to, well, there is some hard coding, right? This has to be run against just the database, etc. But overall, it's workable. Doing this allows us to still retain this behavior here. So now the handlers can be handled here. There's no tight coupling between. I don't have to define all these anymore. Yeah, that's a much cleaner design. CC. Oh, actually, I need to move. I do need this. We need to move that in there. I'm gonna have to build an integration system for this, I think. Integration tests are pretty much the best way to do this sort of stuff. Remove that. Add scoped. Hey, Stony, how you doing? How long did you go for after I stopped watching at midnight, almost my time? I would bet you are a little bit tired. 15 hours. So you didn't go too much longer, but you did go to 15 hours. Oof. A lot of streaming, man. A lot of streaming. CDC repository. I need. So this one pulls off the configuration from one connection string. So we assume the connection string exists. The CDC repository. Did I change it to do the same thing? Yes, I did. So they're all consistent. So I don't need to do anything other than ICDC repository is there. We can get rid of that. It will pull its connection string at runtime. We just need to make sure the things are set up. Builder services add scoped I checkpoint repository. Two versions of Ionic. Oh, that's quite the leap. Add hosted service. Actually, let's do that up there. Let's add these down here. So, checkpoint repository. If I don't do an integration test for this, by the way, then I'm going to end up in a world of hurt because testing this is not easy. It's a lot of SQL. Integration testing, as far as I'm concerned, is the only real way of validating any of this. That's going to be its own set of challenges. So what I'll probably do is build a NuGet package out of it. I will get it committed. Again, this is going to live in my TBD develop repositories, but I am going to open source it. It may not be perfect, but it is workable. And then I'll build a NuGet package, test it in my code, but then come back around afterwards and build a um, sorry, yeah, build a set of integration tests to strengthen it up. But yeah, the goal will be very much to figure out this next part of handling these and inserting them into some data store. But once all the CDC stuff's removed, the dependencies are gone. So that is a good step forward for today. Ba -ba -ba. Okay. So, sorry, I was just checking out stuff. So I'll be back on Friday with more of this. I'm going to try and make some progress on doing, getting these integration services and stuff working. Um, But yeah, and I'll start to move these towards a modular monolith as such, so that I don't have Games API, IGDB API, and price charting APIs. They won't be independently deployed. There'll be one application that's these exist still. It's just going to be there's an application that has all these four components in it: price charting and query will be what I change the view to read from. Um, by making them all one application, um, it means that I can get rid of the gateway. I don't need a gateway anymore because I've got one application that's just componentized. Um, I'm hoping that what I can do is build these out in such a way that I just add a configuration for each one, like an app builder, and then these remain as is. For the most part, they just kind of the pieces that are relevant for setting up the application become part of the app builder. Um, and that way, if I do want to split them out of services again later, I can do. So we're gonna experiment with that bit of learning there, and then see if I can't get the application to be a little bit smoother, a little bit quicker, and have more ability to analyze the data and whatnot. So I haven't rated props before, but we're gonna go right over to props. Props is doing co-working stuff. He builds videos. Um, Today he's speaking in English, which is good. But um, yeah, let's go right over there. So design and development all in one place. with props, making videos on helping people. Yeah, let's go raid. Mars, sorry. Hello. Goodbye. Yeah, I'll be back on Friday with more of this. I'll hopefully have made some progress on the modular monolith aspect to this. I think I'll start that before I move this project in. But yeah, if ever anyone's interested in joining conversations off of stream, I do hang out several times a week in the Discord. No guarantees on what the content of the conversation is about. It could be just about general life stuff. It could be about development. It could be about opinions on development. But you're more than welcome to join in. And if you have anything specific you want to talk about, everyone's welcome to join. Just you might not get to talk about what you want to talk about. So um, yes, unfortunately, I have to work for a living to be able to afford to pay for all these games that I want to buy. So thank you very much for the raid. Thank you for all those that came in and hung around after after maybe raided. Um, best of luck to you, maybe if you're still around, and let's go raid props. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on Friday, hopefully. Take care, all.